Hello, everybody. So every good stream should start with cat. Hello, Mr. Clinton. Aw, that was a weak meow. Aw, you're tired, aren't you? Say hi to everybody. No, he doesn't want to say hi. He's tired. Nope, we got a Clinton sitting up. Hey. He's tired and doesn't want to be bothered. Hi, everybody. Let's get that out of the way. That's not what was in the way. That's the one that's in the way. So, let's talk a little bit about Flexgate. There seems to be some misconceptions and misinformation in our industry a little bit still about Flexgate. So Flexgate is something that affects all of the 2016, 2017, and early 2018 machines. All the ones that are 17.0 something. The 1706, 1707, 1708. Every single one of these machines, if you look at and find Apple's press release on this thing, it's a long URL, but we have a shortened one. It's bit.ly/you lied to me. So if you go to that, you'll find the link for Apple's service program for this. You see that it's all running out. All the machines are no longer covered by this, and they claim that it was only a small percentage of machines are affected by this. That's an outright lie. Every single machine that they produced in 2016, 2017, early 2018 is affected by this. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here. No, I'm not moving to Texas. I have too much family around here, too much going on outside of work. I'm not moving to Texas. So I will probably be starting my own company doing this. So especially if there's an overlap between Lewis closing New York and opening in Texas, you can come find me. I'm in the middle of forming the company right now, so I can't really take any work yet. But it's pse-nj.com will be my URL when I'm ready. Or ps-electronics.repair. You can find me on either one of them, or find me on YouTube, and the links will be in my description in YouTube. So we take a look at this is a 1707 from 2017. I think this model is. The area we're concerned with is right down here. This is where the screen connects to the rest of the board. So this is the actual cable that connects from the screen board to the logic board. And then this control board here, called the Tcon board, all of these little cables here are what run to the glass panel itself and is bonded to the glass panel. So I already did the backlight Flexgate on here, and the other ones that's affected here is the webcam. So today we're going to be doing the webcam. What are you yelling about? So you want to go out? One moment, please. Where are you? You want to go out? There you go. Yeah, he wanted to get out. So let me see if I could zoom in on this one. I might just have to switch to the microscope camera. So you can see a little bit here. I'll go into the microscope camera too to really illustrate it. But so these wider cables here, these wide flex cables, this is for the image. This is what carries all the image data to the glass panel in the screen. This little one here is the webcam, everything for the webcam, and this little one here is for the backlight. So this one breaks almost all the time. Just the makeup of the cable. This has larger pieces of copper in it, so it just makes the cable a little bit more brittle. This one breaks almost all the time. This one does not break that often, but it still is affected the same way, where it's just too short for being in here. You can see kind of in this angle here, you can see that this one, it loops around. It looks like it's looping around the same distance as this one. This one, you can tell that it just loops a lot quicker. It disappears a lot sooner than this one does. It doesn't go out as far. So let me show you under the microscope what this looks like. This is beyond planned obsolescence. This was just an oversight by Apple, and they should have did a lot more to correct this for their customers. This was pretty bad on their customers, the way they did this. So there we can see that this is a great view of, this is the backlight one. This one has already been repaired. So the backlight one is now just a tiny bit longer even than the image one. So you can see where it loops around underneath, and this one, and you can see the beginning of my repair there is on the other side of the loop. It's cut right in the spot where that does not flex. That's just going to move back and forth in a straight line. That never bends there, so it's okay for us to cut and solder on that point right there. You don't want to cut anywhere where it's going to keep bending, or else it'll fail again. But then we come over here to this side, and you see how much shorter this cable is than this. Look at all the space in here. This is the image cable, and it's way out there, and then this is the camera cable. Look at how much shorter that is. And now if I open up this, let me see if I could set this up. This might be a little difficult. Try to do it on the overhead so I don't make you sick from the microscope bouncing around. So I'm going to set this up over the edge of the desk. I'm opening up the screen over the edge of the desk, and I didn't get into this yet, so I didn't do the first thing of, let's disconnect the battery. These tweezers are terrible. Where are my tweezers? Okay, disconnect battery. Now let me show you what this looks like, what is going on here. Microscope view. Now you see, this is open at a 90-degree angle. This is what you would normally have your MacBook or your laptop open when you're sitting at a desk. So it doesn't stretch it that bad, but you can see that there's a little bit of a bend in there, a little bit of a cut in there. Now if I go a little bit farther out, so say you're standing at your desk and you open your screen all the way, see how tight that gets to where it completely ripped the cable. Now this gets even worse on the other side, on the backlight side. Backlight always fails on these. So this is beyond, this is the extremity of how far the hinges will let the MacBook open. So I'm not going crazy here. I'm not pushing this beyond what it's allowed to open. This is just how far the hinges will let the MacBook open. And you see how the image one has plenty of room still. It's still bouncy in here. It still has plenty of room to go. But the camera one and the old backlight one was completely stressed to breaking. If we go over to the new backlight one, you see the new backlight one is perfect. There's plenty of room in here. It's never going to break again. So what Flexgate does is that these cables break, and how it manifests, how you're going to see it, is that you'll take your laptop and you'll start opening the top to go use it. And you open it up a little bit, and you're going to see that the backlight has come on, the machine's working, it just turned on, and then I open it up the rest of the way, and somewhere in the middle, all of a sudden the backlight just turns off. Your screen goes dark. If you take a flashlight and angle it at a certain angle on the screen, you can see that the image is still there, but it's just dark. So that is Flexgate. Flexgate has nothing else to do with screen artifacts or vertical lines on the screen or strange every other horizontal lines or something like that. That has nothing to do with Flexgate. There is another thing called Dustgate, where the large image wires, the way that they're routed through here, they're pressing up against some metal, and if you get a piece of sand in there, it just pressing up against that sand will eventually poke a hole through the cable and could break one of the cable lines, and then you wind up having one single line in the screen or something like that. But that's not Flexgate. That we call that something different. It's Dustgate. It's very rarely fixable. Sometimes you can get away with fixing it. Most of the time, that just means a new screen. But Flexgate is very fixable. That these cables are very replaceable. What we do is just graft an extra cable onto it. There's some people that take the whole screen apart and put a whole new cable on. I'll show you the cable that I'm putting into this now. So we're going to do the camera side here, and this is the new cable. So we're not going to use this whole cable because we're just going to cut off what we need and graft it onto the old cable, because the rest of this cable that goes to the screen is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just right here because it's too short and it just cut off right here. So let's get into it. We're going to start taking this apart. Tools, let's see. Sorry, I should have got a little bit more set up before I started this stream. So you're saying don't take your MacBook to the beach. MacBooks probably hate going to the beach because it has everything that they hate. They don't want water. They don't want sand. They don't want sun. You know, using your MacBook out in your backyard on a nice sunny day, it's impossible. The things overheat. The first thing you'll notice is that it shuts down the webcam. Like I attended a party one time where they had people on a Zoom meeting that couldn't attend the party, and it was running on a MacBook on a table in the backyard, and the webcam turned off and it wouldn't run anymore because it was too hot. So yeah, the beating sun, sand, and heat and water, your MacBook is not made for the beach. So first thing I did was I took the cover off of the camera connector here, took the cover off of the whole screen cable. I took this one plastic cover off because we need to take the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth antenna out to get all this apart. So that's it for my T3. So now I'm going to switch over to T5. And we need to disconnect the antenna, so I'll unscrew the antenna there. Then we'll unscrew the T-con board. My brother has a 1707 with a Flexgate issue. After weeks of contacting Apple, no dice for warranty repair. How much do we charge for the repair? Here, we charge $325 for one side. So if you just need the backlight, then that's $325. If you need both of them, then it's $100 more for the second one. Because unfortunately, I didn't notice that this was bad, or else I would have done it all together. And that's what makes it worthwhile to charge a little bit less, because we do it all together. But now I'm having to start this like it's a whole nother job, because I did not notice that until I went to go test and make sure all the function was done. When I get my business set up, I'm going to have a little bit less overhead, because I'm going to be running out of my my basement for now anyway. So I'm going to be charging $225 for one side, and then $325 for both if you need it. So, but that's not going to be for a while until I get my business set up. Okay, now we switch over to our Pentalobe 1, and we need to take out all of these ground plane screws here. What screwdriver is that? That is the Wowstick F1. Or 1F. 1F? F1? 1F? Something like that. It just says Wowstick. Thing works really good on MacBook stuff. People complain that it doesn't have enough power for like Xboxes or PlayStations, but all of these little screws, it works great on. These I'm using a manual screwdriver because they're a little bit more delicate. These little pentalobe ones, they're so tiny that it's really easy to strip them out. So it's a little bit harder to do, so I do it straight by hand so I have a real feel for it. And when you're dealing with something like this, I see that there's a lot of technicians, a lot of other shops that just don't understand the fundamentals of how to screw out or in a screw. There's so many times. Number one, every 6 months, evaluate your screwdrivers. Throw away the ones that are getting worn out. Every 6 months, you just make it a rule that you know, Christmas and then Christmas in July, you gift yourself some new screwdrivers. And every screwdriver, every bit that you have that's really dull or anything, either sharpen them up. You can take a sanding block and sharpen them down a little bit, or throw them away and get new ones all the time. And then when you're dealing with something like this, these little tiny screws, first you need to find and make sure you're all the way in the screw. So don't try to torque on it until you're sure you're engaged fully in the screw. So you got to get on top of it. Now I'm fully engaged, and now I give downward pressure, so I'm going to push down pretty hard too. Once I know I'm fully engaged only, I push down pretty hard and I give it a twist. And then I could loosen up and just unscrew it the rest of the way. Always that first turn, you're engaged. Always that first turn, I give a nice hard pressure down, real quick turn, and then screw the rest of the way out. Always make sure you're using the right screwdriver. Always make sure your screwdrivers are not worn out. This is the tools of your trade. If your trade is working on these things, always make sure you have the best tools you can get. I used to be an automotive mechanic years ago, so that was what I did before I came to work for Lewis 5 years ago. And it's a lot more important techniques on how to remove fasteners in cars than it is for this. Let's disconnect our antenna wires. Now we can pull the antenna out, and the wires just follow through. There we go. That's our Wi-Fi antenna, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth antenna. So now I'm disconnect the screen cable, and now I'll disconnect the webcam cable here. And there's our webcam cable. Now I'm going to take, this thing turned out to be absolutely perfect for this. This is the stencil holder for one of those big reballing frames. It has all these like springs on it and everything, and holds the chip in the center so that you can just pour lead balls and then shake it around and they all fill in the holes. This turned out to be the perfect height and the perfect size and everything to work on this stuff. So it makes a perfect stage for us to work on this. So the first thing I'm going to do is just create a fresh working environment for myself on this. So I take some polyamide tape, some Captain tape. Just give a nice new flat surface for us to work off of. Process of putting bearings in a Ford 8.8 differential. Ugh. I worked on one of them once, Ford 8.8. Mostly Ford 9 inches I work on. 8.8s are a little bit more rare. Okay, so if we look close at this, we can see where it wants to bend, where the flex was, and we can see where it wanted to be straight. So that somewhere in here is our safest place to cut it and graft in our new piece. So I'm just going to lay it out flat here. I'm going to tape it down. So just stretch it out, tape it down. Anel, I've already done them. Anel is not in this country right now. He is on vacation, enjoying himself. What time is it over there? Why is he even watching the stream?
Because he has nothing to do.
Are you playing Binding of Isaac again on vacation, for crying out loud? Okay, so now it's nice and flat, and right about there is where I'm going to wind up cutting it. So you see it's past where it wants to bend up, right where it's going to stay straight. So right, maybe a millimeter away from the tape is where I'm going to cut this. So now we take our new one, and I want to cut this right with it. So I'm going to tape it right here with it. Get the T-con board out of the way. Now this is an operation that you wish you had another hand. So I'm going to, so by accident, 3 millimeters is what we want it to be longer than the original cable, than the OE cable. But this little piece here, this little screw hole piece, is just about the perfect length extra. So I'm just going to make this that much longer. I'm lining up so I'm looking at this. I can see the end of the old cable, and I'm just putting this new cable. That's where I want the end of the old cable. So this is this much longer. This is where the old cable stops. It's this much longer than that, and that's going to be the perfect amount of length for the new cable. So now we'll tape that in the exact same spot that I taped the other one. You always want to take your time doing this step, because setting it all up right is just going to make it easier down the road. Okay, hold it down there, and I want to tape this straight as I can, and right where I have the other tape. I'm probably blocking your view, aren't I? Yeah, I kind of got to see what I'm doing here. Okay. There you go. So now when I look at this under the microscope and I pick where I'm going to cut, I'm just going to cut straight across here. Now, one of the big keys to doing this is using a really sharp X-Acto knife. So X-Acto knives, it would be impractical. We do probably 5 of these a week, or I myself do 5 of these a week. The other technicians probably do some too. I'm not going to change a new blade every single time I do this. So what I'm going to do is I have here a La Fermère yogurt cup. It's a terracotta cup that has no glazing on the bottom. I'm going to use that to hone the edge of my X-Acto knife. So this is going to make a really, really sharp knife. And then I'll take a Q-tip and just clean it off. And then we can inspect it underneath the microscope. And what you look for a sharp knife, you look straight into the cutting surface, and you don't want to see any reflection back at you. So that's not exactly sharp, because I see a bright spot coming back at me. See, back here, back farther, this is really sharp, because I see a couple abrasions, but I don't see a bright spot shining back at me. So I want that bright, well, the bright spot's a little high, so I'm not going to be cutting into that. But I want to get rid of it anyway, so let me sharpen it a little bit more. You can also use a coffee cup or something. There you go. There's one nick in there, but we're not going to get anywhere near cutting there. We're going to cut all the way down towards the tip, which is really sharp because you don't see any reflections coming back at us there. So let's go over to our work area. So now here's our 2 cables. I can't really get him on screen that well. I have a cat in here yelling at me. Let's see what the cat wants. Permit me one moment. Oh, we got an Oreo in here. Let's say hi to Oreo. The little Oreo. Mwah. He wants to go back out. He came in here to use the restroom. There you go. Yes, the cats are going to Texas, unfortunately. Lewis would probably give up Oreo, but I don't want Oreo. I want Blackberry. But my significant other, she's allergic to cats, so we need a hypoallergenic cat if I ever get a cat. Okay, so now somewhere about here, I think looks good. I'm going to check where it's bending, where it wants to be straight. Yeah, right about there, I think. I'm looking at it a little crooked. Let me see if I could straighten everything out, because now you're crooked. This is a critical point here, so. It's not that big of a problem if I mess up the new one, because I could just go get another new one. But I don't want to mess up cutting the original one. So yeah, right about there, I'm just going to cut straight across, try to be as straight as I can. Okay, so that connector is discarded. And right here, we're just going to continue the cut straight across. There we go. Now this is the one we need. So I'll untape that. I'm going to transfer the tape to the connector that we need. And here's the connector that we need taped up the same way. Now we're going to work on exposing the traces so that we can solder to them. Okay. Sorry, moving this is going to be a little bit jittery because I can't move the board. I can't, like, normally when we do board repair on this desk, I can move the board wherever I want, but this is now stationary. I can't really move this around. Well, maybe a little bit because it's all on the rubber mat. So I guess I can move it a little. But it's safer just to move the microscope and only the microscope. Okay, now we need to expose all of our traces. So, very gently. Oh, I forgot my pen. I'll get it when I need it. Okay, just a little bit. Now I'm going to start getting to the data lines, and the data lines are very, very, very tiny traces in here. They're extremely fragile, extremely difficult to play with. So you want to be real careful how much pressure you're putting on this. So right now all I'm taking off is the black coating. I don't know if it's some kind of epoxy or if it's just paint or if it's plastic itself. I don't know. But I'm just going to take only that off, and it still has some kind of other coating on top of it that I'll take off with a fiberglass pen. Okay. When I'm done working here, when Lewis moves, I'm sure I will have more time to devote to my own YouTube channel. So I should be doing more repair streams, and I also have like other photography stuff. At home I have a black and white darkroom. I do large format photography. So I'm going to be doing more of that stuff too. But yeah, sure. Once I get my business off the ground, I'll stream the repairs that I get there. You like hearing me talk about automotive stuff? That is the very first video, and turns out it's my most popular video on my little tiny channel that I have. Is me working on a what was it? A Boxer roof or just a Porsche roof? Porsche, however you want to pronounce it. Everybody yells at me as soon as I say Porsche. So Porsche roof, automatic roof. What's your channel name? It's just Paul S. It's really hard to find me. The easiest way to find me is to look for the Microsoft Band 2. So I used to really champion Microsoft products, and they made a watch like this called the Microsoft Band. And then the Band 2 came out, and the thing was just spectacular. And I did a video tearing it down and changing the logic board and changing the battery and stuff. And that is my second most popular video on my YouTube channel. And I'm like the only person in the fucking world who did that. So if you search for Microsoft Band 2 Teardown, you'll find my channel. Surprisingly, I did not buy a Zune. I had an RCA Lyra back in the day. I never bought a Zune. Sherlock Holmes, is that me? Hey, Kopaz. So now we start scraping the new one. Kopaz got got New York City real estate. He thought he got a 870 square foot apartment, but when measured, it's less. You want to grab my fiberglass scratch pen?
Sure. Where is it?
Sitting in my terracotta cup on my desk. It's red. Hi, for some weird reason, went out and bought AirPods, the Pros, and he has always dropped them all over the freaking place. One just fell out of his ear just now when he was over here. I would have the terrible time with them because like the headphones, the Apple headphones, they do not stay in my ear. I do not have the right shape ear for that. Okay, the new one is made of a little bit more stuff, so it's kind of hard to get all of this off. I think the scratch pen does a better job than this. So, wait for Hi to get back with my scratch pen, I think. Thank you. So here I have a fiberglass scratch pen. So it's just basically it's a lead pencil holder, a drafting pencil holder, but then you have these fiberglass scratch rods that go in it instead. All kinds of hobbyists use this for all kinds of stuff. Really, really good for doing stuff like this. So you see that it's just a bunch of fiberglass in a bundle. That's not in focus for you. See, just a bunch of fiberglass in a little bundle. And the little pointy ends that you usually get stuck in your finger are out to do your bidding. So just pushing down nice and light on this. One thing that, with a lot of practice, you get used to, the worst thing you could do is come off of it like that, and then on the way back up, catch it and bend it over itself. So you always have to positively lift up and then go back over here. Don't ask me how I know that. Is there commentary going on in Discord you want to show me?
No, what's being banned.
Oh. So this new one is a lot harder to scrape off than the original one. You'll see as soon as I touch the original one, they all become shiny pretty damn quick. Let's do a little bit of more scraping with the... I don't like fiberglass pen because of debris on the table. Yes, you see this stuff? This stuff can get stuck in your finger and it hurts forever. You see that it's clear. You can see right through it here. So once that gets in your skin, good luck finding it. You know it's there because it's letting you know it's there, but you can't find it to get it out. It's awful. So you just have to take extra precautions. As soon as I'm done with my fiberglass pen, really even in between, like right now I have my fingers close to it again, so I'm going to take a piece of Captain tape and I'm going to put it over top of all this and lift up all of that fiberglass. I don't want any of that in my finger. So we'll just lift it all clean with a piece of tape and then fold that tape in on itself and throw that away. Okay, with the little tiny ones, so I've done a couple of these so far, just a couple, too. And I want to try something different with the little ones if I can today. I would like to only expose the middle of it. I don't want to expose the end because these like to tear away from the flex really easily. So it would be better if I can just expose the middle of it a little bit. But this is a feat. I don't know if this is going to work out. Like I said, the camera Flexgate does not break as often as the backlight Flexgate, so we don't do many of these. See, that's all I really want. I want to keep the end intact underneath this, whatever this coating is. So then it has a better chance of surviving there. Would applying heat be a good idea? No. No chemicals that would attack the coating? Probably not, because I want everything else to stay intact. The rest of this cable needs to stay intact and in good condition. So you don't want to heat it up because you don't want to damage anything that you're going to be keeping, and you don't want to put chemicals on it, because if a chemical will dissolve this, how are you going to keep it right here and only dissolving here and not going farther up into your cable? So this is just be patient and work on just a little bit. That's it. Let's see. Try to cut up into it. Have to be real careful not to cut the trace. These traces are minusculely thin. I think the scratch pen will take the rest of that. This looks tedious. Where's the Dremel with the Scotch-Brite wheel? Man, that would be amazing if there was a Scotch-Brite wheel small enough. A little roll-lock tool with a little Scotch-Brite disc. But you have to understand the sizes that we're working with here. Let me see. What is something that can bring size relationship? I have a 1/4 on me. That's a little bit big. So a 1/4 is a little bit big to show this. So yeah, let's see. Where's something small on a 1/4? The In God We Trust. Now, even the I in the In God We Trust is bigger than any one of the traces I'm working on here, except the big grounds. Sonny! Oh, I forgot to turn on the amplifiers. I didn't hear that. How's it doing, Sonny? So yeah, that shows you a little taste of what the size is that we're dealing with. I don't have anything else that gives a good size relationship. There's no penny around here, no dime. Strand of hair for comparison. I could do that. I'll pull out a beard hair when I get the wire that I'm going to be using. The wire that I'm going to be using is smaller than these traces, because you want something that's not going to put strain on the little tiny traces. Now the next precaution thing that I'm going to do, this one's about ready, so So I want to find out which one of these is ground. So definitely the big ones are going to be ground. Well, I don't know. These are between data points, so that might be a ground. Because anything that's not ground, anything that has a signal or power to it, I want to cut off the very end of that wire. Because the underside of this cable and the underside of the other cable is all a ground plane. And because of you cut it and you scraped it now, this is like bent and going underneath a little bit. And especially once I put solder on here, these things have a tendency of connecting to the ground plane, and it will just destroy all the data that's going through it. Anybody that works on this, you may have seen this problem with your backlight flex gates. If you do a backlight flex gate and then when you turn it on, you have stage lights. So the way the backlight works is that you have one big heavy connector that's sending the backlight power to the backlight strip. And then you have a bunch of little return lines. That's what's actually sending the ground. We're kind of sending ground to the backlight diodes. And if one of those gets shorted to ground where it's always grounded, then that's going to make that one set of the backlight strip stay on high all the time. So even if you turn the backlight all the way down, I haven't seen this feature in many other laptops other than Apple. I can turn the backlight all the way off to where the screen is still on, but there's zero backlight. Like most computers, you turn the backlight all the way down, you can still see the screen. This backlight's still on. Apple, you can turn the backlight all the way off, which is good if you want to run something, like leave your laptop open overnight and let something run. You can just turn the backlight off so it's not shining anywhere. But if one of these is shorted, any one of these backlight returns is shorted to ground, you get stage lights on the screen where whatever set of lights, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the backlight diodes go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way on the bottom of the screen. So if number 5 is shorted to ground, then the 5th LED is just going to stay on bright all the time. So to stop that, to keep that from happening, what you need to do is the very end of the backlight returns, anything that deals with power, either the backlight power or the backlight returns, we just want to nip off just a little tiny bit of that wire, just like that. And now there's no chance of that being wrapped underneath and getting grounded. So I'm going to do that for all the signals, and then I also need to figure out which ones of these are not ground, and I need to do the same to that. So I'm pretty certain that that's going to be ground and this is going to be ground. Let's see if we can ohm check some of this. Okay, so I have my multimeter set to beep mode. I don't know if that can be heard. Well, let's see here. That's ground. That's the same. That's not. That's ground. That's ground. So I'm pretty certain the biggest one's going to be ground. So the one between the data lines is probably ground. So that's a really good way to go by. The one between the data lines is most likely going to be ground. So that's ground. That's ground. That's power. That's ground. So all of my data lines I'm going to nip off like this. And then this other bigger one here, this one's going to get nipped off in the same way. So then I'm sure that nothing's going to get shorted when I solder it all back together. Let me get a little bit closer here. I need to really see what I'm doing at this. This is another point that you should sharpen your blade too, just like we did at the beginning. Mine seems to be sharp enough that that cut through that nicely. So there, now there's no chance of that wrapping around to the bottom because it's not all the way to the end. None of them. Okay, let's scrape this one a little bit more. Okay. Okay, now we'll go over to the OE one. And you saw how difficult it was to cut all of that and everything. This one is going to be so much easier. As soon as we take our fiberglass pen to this, this is just going to wipe right off. So not only are we making this a little bit longer so it's more comfortable, I have a lot more confidence in these replacement cables that we're getting than the OE cables. Thank you, Paul, for the $20. I really should turn on the speakers so I hear that. Okay, hopefully that's not too loud and scares the shit out of me, because this is all delicate work. No, that is not too loud. Good. Another vote against fiberglass pens. Yes, it's because of this wonderful little stuff right here. This is the only reason why people hate fiberglass pens. You just have to take extra care. You have to know that this is going to happen, and you have to take extra care. So again, I'm going to take a piece of Captain tape, and we're just going to cover over all of that, and then lift it right off. There you go. No fiberglass. It's all caught in the tape. Are the fibers a cancer risk like asbestos? No. Basically, it is the same thing, but these are on a way bigger order of magnitude than asbestos. Asbestos is dangerous because it's airborne. It's so fine and so thin that it gets airborne and you can breathe it in. And once you breathe it in, it cuts into your lung tissue and the fibers never leave. They just sit there and keep rubbing up against your lungs and cutting. And that's the danger of asbestos. This stuff is big. This stuff just sits on the desk. It doesn't float anywhere. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing on this. I'm going to cut all the ones that deal with data or power. So this is probably going to be the 5 volt to webcam. We're going to cut that back a little bit. I get closer so I can see what I'm doing. For decades, I've used the ink eraser pencils with the brush on one end to clean PCB tracers. Amazing. Still use them. I buy them all the time. I don't use the ink ones because the ink ones are a little bit too abrasive on some things. I use the regular pencil erasers. But yeah, they are amazing for cleaning charge ports, cleaning up the contact pads on hard drives and stuff like that. They're absolutely indispensable. Nobody here ever heard of that until they started seeing me do it. Now everybody uses them. It's like an old school thing. Just use a pencil eraser. Okay. Let me see. Let me see if I could pull out one beard hair and show you the size that we're dealing with here. Ooh, I got the whole follicle. There's a beard hair. That's how big we're working with here. So you see the space that's double the width of one of those things is about the same size as my beard hair with follicle. So yeah, 2 of them. Yeah, that's how small we're dealing with here. Okay, so now we're going to line up the 2. Now this one's a little indented from all the scraping, so let me straighten that out. Just gonna compress it in my tweezers, press it in my fingers, try to get that to be straighter. It's indented a little bit. It's a little better. Let me get the right side a little bit more. That's better. Now we're going to line it up. And you see they don't line up exactly well. This one is awfully close to there, so I'm going to nip off some of this right here. And cut off some of this trace right here so it doesn't get anywhere near where I'm soldering. I'll zoom in. That's a little bit washed out for you. When I zoom back out, I'll pay more attention to that and readjust that. There we go. Get out of there. Okay. Let me readjust that. There you go. Now we're going to line it up. Okay, that's the best it's going to line up. This is a problem a little bit here, because this is ground and this is power, and these 2 corners are awfully close to each other, so I'm going to have to do a little bit trimming over there too. Is it possible to get original cable stripped from the opposite side and soldered together BGA style? Yes and no. you don't have much space to work with once you put it back in the machine, and good luck finding cables that actually match up 100%, because it just doesn't happen. All of them are a little bit off like this almost all the time. This one's pretty off though. Usually they're not this far off. Yeah, that's as close as I can get it, because these are lined up good, these are lined up okay, these are lined up mediocre. This is terrible. There you go. Now everything's a little farther away from each other. Okay. So now the first thing we're going to do is solder the giant ground pads together, and that'll just give us some stability to the entire unit. So let me switch out my soldering iron tip. So the usual micro pencil tip we use is this one, and you can see it's way too big to work on anything here. So the one I'm switching out for is this one, which is the smallest one they make, unfortunately. And it's still a little big for working on this, but it's the best you can do. Wow, there's a lot of cat hair at the end of this. Let me clean this. The flux tip is disgusting. Okay, a little bit of flux right down the middle here. Oh, I forgot Lewis has the giant solder. Let me go get a length of my little solder. One moment, please. I am back. So yeah, Lewis's solder is a little bit bigger than what I would want. So this is the one that I use on my desk. It's about half the size. And I took some of the flux, that's fine. Okay, first thing we're going to do is a little dab of flux, or a little dab of solder at the end of our pico tip. And I need to turn on the fume extractor. And I'm going to try to hold everything flat right here, and just tap the ground. There we go. That one's not terrible, but needs some more cleaning. Another dab. Hold down this side. There you go. And that moved in a funny way, or... Oh no, it's just the flux. Okay. But we still have some space in between here. I don't like the way this is holding up, so let's remelt this. While I hold that down, there we go. Now it's nice and flat. So now all the grounds are connected. I'll go through and try to tin all of these. A little bit more. Oh shit. We already broke one. So my idea of just keeping the middle of them is not working out at all already. Right from the very beginning. So let's fix that up. Have to clean it up, get all the flux out of here. And try to re-expose this a little bit. This is a little bit big here. I'm going to have to take some of the solder off of it. A little bit more flux. Some fresh solder. And let's see if we can get this to 10 this time. Okay. Everything's tinned nicely, including the broken one. That one's wiggling away. I'm going to cut that back a little bit. There we go. Okay. Now we're gonna take our. Should I do the? No, I'll do the. No, I'll do the big ones first. I'm gonna take our regular size jumper wire. So this is 44 gauge jumper wire, and I'll go ahead and put that into these. It's a little dark. There we go. So I'm only holding this in my hand right now, so it's kind of unstable. Once I get it tacked in, there we go. Tacked in there, grab my tweezers. There we go. We didn't tin the 5-volt ones. Let's get some solder on those. There we go. Oops. There we go. Okay, all of the ground and power is good. Now we have to go after these little tiny things. So little tiny things are getting an even smaller wire. This is 0.007 millimeter wire. I don't know what that is in gauge, in non-metric gauge. Other than like, holy fuck. That's how small this wire is. It's as small as a cat hair. So I'll try to line it up over one of them, and I have to try to keep the smallest amount of heat on any of this stuff. That's tacked. Let me zoom in some. That is not tacked, okay. No problem. That is tacked, but not enough solder on it. I need to add some solder to my pencil tip. Okay, that was too much solder on my pencil tip. And it combined with that. Okay, don't argue with it. It went to the second one, then we'll do the second one first. There you go. Second one soldered. Okay, that one soldered on nicely. It's 33. This has got to be smaller than 33 gauge. Because the other one that I was working with is 44 gauge. And this is at least half the size of that. So this has got to be at least 50 something, 60 gauge wire. Okay, that one broke. The trace broke off the thing, that's fine. Get it off of the wire. I'll just solder down here to where the trace is still at. Oh shit, I ripped it off. Okay, all I did was rip off the solder off of the trace, so... A little bit of new solder. Let's get this to stick to that. There we go, that's a nice solder joint. So the pairs are actually the easier part to this. Once you get to the 4 is where it gets difficult. A robot arm with improved accuracy would be so helpful. Yes, it would. This is small enough and delicate enough that, like, if I don't steady myself the proper way, my heartbeat gets in the way of me doing this job. Anybody walking on the floor in the vicinity gets in the way of doing this job. That one went on so easy. Why can't they all be like that? I have a 10 by 20 stereo microscope for SMD work, and it's amazing how much steadier your hand gets when you're working on fine circuits. There's a lot of tricks, a lot of ways to hold things, how to steady yourself, how to hold yourself in your seat. Isn't that a part you can buy and replace and be done with it? Yes. You can buy an entire screen for $700 and replace it and be done with it. Well, actually, this is 1707, so probably around $600 for a screen. So yes. Yes, I kind of have to control my breathing and my heartbeat as if I was on the shooting range. So the one said they are hiring snipers. It is basically the same exact control of movement. Is that I like right now I'm just talking to you and I can move around and everything. Once I get the soldering iron in my hand and I'm about to touch it with the soldering iron, I do the exact same thing that I do when I'm on the range. I breathe out to my natural pause in breath, and that's what I hold. And I hold my natural pause in breath, and that's when I move in and solder and pull back away. So those techniques really do come in play in here. So breathe in, breathe out, reach the natural pause of breath. You don't ever try to hold your breath. And you don't try to breathe out farther than what is normally comfortable to your lungs. Just where you naturally stop. I'm being too perfectionist with it. It's soldered. 82 gauge. There you go. So yeah, our normal jumper wire is 44 gauge. I think I like to use 40 gauge a lot of times too. I have that on my desk. Oh, that didn't solder over here. But this is 82 gauge. I unsoldered the other side. There we go. Yeah, probably not the smartest idea to drink energy cans before doing this. I'm actually running on 1 cup of Lipton tea and a Venti vanilla cafe frappuccino. So I probably could be steadier than this if I didn't have that Starbucks. No, this is not. This is not low temperature solder. This is regular 6040 solder. And my iron temperature, because it's such a tiny point and it's hard to get pump heat out into that tiny point, it's still set at 840 degrees. And I believe that's in freedom units on the HAKKO. Wow, do we really have enough live viewers to attract spam bots? Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's good to see you all here. I can actually see my heartbeat in my tweezer hand. Was anybody watching the top part when it popped off? So I was watching what I was doing, and then I saw the top popped off. That deserves a sweet mercy. Use C210 tips in my soldering station. What are the C210? Is that the ones where the is that the one where you slide the tip over the heater? Because none of them are exactly very good. I would suggest get the actual Weller brand name if you're getting them. Don't get some cheap ones or anything like that. Get the actual Weller ones. And if they're shiny, if they're like polished, solder doesn't like sticking to those polished ones. You could also try getting one of the tip tinners, one of those little chemical paste tip tinners that you stick it into. That helps out a lot sometimes too if you're having trouble tinning your tips. I don't know if that's touching. Don't do Weller. Pace is the way to go. I don't mind either one of them. I really like the HAKKO stuff that we have here. I have one pace station at home. I like it, but I don't think pace is worth the money, really. Pace is unbelievably expensive. I can't justify that cost for anybody, really. I really like the HAKKO. The HAKKO's a good middle road. It's somewhat pricey and really good, full of features. It's not a... How you doing? A conical tip? I guess it is a conical tip. It's a point tip for the micro iron. It's the T30i. The HAKKO T30-I. Now, the FX951 is the basic station that we would use here. This is the FM203, so it's basically like two FX951s. So you could have two hand pieces connected to the same station, controlled by the same station. Yeah, Pace is a tough brand, so if you can find stuff used on eBay, that'll work for you just fine, because they are a tough machine. So, like, even after the rigors of industrial life, and then finds a new life on your desk, it's still gonna work. That's how I got mine. It was gifted to me by somebody. It's one of the desoldering stations with the pump and everything. Okay, this step is nerve-wracking. Okay, first off, this one ground needs to come down. We made that ground way too big. I'm gonna have to pull some of that solder off of this. Never do this. Don't ever wick with a tiny little soldering iron. Do what I say, don't do what I do. Unless you could actually pull it off without soldering everything together and ripping it apart. Okay, cleaning this up is absolutely nerve-wracking. I'm pretty much guaranteed that I'm going to rip one of these off, because I'm going to catch a sharp end of one of the cables, one of the little wires that I put on there, and rip it right off the... And the best case scenario is that it just rips from the solder. Worst case scenario is that it pulls up the trace with it too and everything. But we have to clean it up, because we have to coat this with conformal coating. Okay, some of them don't look like they end well. Everything's soldered good. But it doesn't matter if they look like they're a little bit too close together or anything, because once we put the conformal coating on this, everything's going to be frozen where it is. Nothing's going to be able to move, so we don't have to worry about, oh, that looks like it might slide into each other. It's not going to happen. Okay, I'm going to pull it up and clean from underneath it too. You can make sure there's no flux anywhere around it. Okay, now we're ready to coat this. Let's take a closer look at some of the soldering. Everything looks connected. Yeah, that'll do for me. Okay, let me go get my conformal coating and my dental tool. I forgot them. One moment, please. Okay. Now I have some green UV mechanic solder mask. I have a dental tool to spread it with, like a pen. I just dip my dental tool down into the solder mask and just dab it on the top of all this. I'm going to cover every exposed metal point. You want a nice thin coating with this. Rub out that sharp point. Because this cures by UV light, or near UV light. So you don't want it too thick, because if the UV light can't get through it, it doesn't get cured. Okay, everything's good and coated. Now we'll take our near UV laser pointer. It's actually really hard to see where I'm shining it at with the light on. Can I make that brighter? No. That's the best you guys can see with no light. I can see it still. It's really hard to tell where I've been with the light on. Okay, that side's done. My God, it's full of stars. As I get whisked away into oblivion. Just give it a quick wash. Now I'm going to do the back too. Give the back a quick wash. You get a little bit of more coating on my dental tool. And then this brake, the brake in the back, we're going to coat that too. Okay, I did not get enough on my dental tool. There we go. Okay, clean off my dental tool real quick so I don't plop this stuff everywhere. Okay, now we'll cure this. Okay, clean that up too. There's like an oily substance that comes to the surface of it as it cures. So if we leave that on there, then the Kapton tape won't stick to it. Now we pull off the Kapton tape that we put on here so we can clean under where it was. I'll tape it a little bit farther out. Okay. And then we just want to clean up everything else. Use the new side of the Q-tip. Make sure both sides are nice and clean. Now we're going to cut a piece of this thinner Kapton. So this Kapton is just about the exact size of the solder joint that we do. Just want to get it to tack on nice and straight right there. And I'll fold it around. Fold it around nice and tight on that side. This Kapton's in my way. Nice and tight to the cable. Pretty lined up good, and just squeeze it into place. Give it a nice hard squeeze, make sure it connects. And I forgot my scissors. Be right back. Hello, I'm back. Okay. Get my scissors in here. And we want to leave a little bit of space so that the tape has something to stick to itself. There we go. Okay, we could clean up our work area. I use the Captain tape to pick up any dust or any more shavings from the fiberglass pen. And there we go. Got a nice clean work area for the next time we do it. Now we'll pull out the Zcoin board. Put this around it. Now the first test I do is I gently pull on the Zcoin board and see if it's the same length. Now this before this got changed. When you pull on this would still have a lot of slack bending up because this was so much shorter that it would stop like there, and you would see that this is really still bowed out. Now if I pull it out gently, you see that everything is nice and straight. So this is now longer. It sits in here nicer. It's going to last a lot longer. And these two splices are in an area right in here where all it does is move backwards and forwards. It doesn't bend at all. So nothing will harm on that at all. And there you go. That's a Flexgate repair. That's a double-sided Flexgate repair. You guys didn't get to see that side. I did that yesterday. Now let's go ahead and test it out. Let me turn off this fume extractor. Oh, BlackBerry. We have a... So you guys got to see Mr. Clinton at the beginning of the stream. And then I brought Oreo in. But here's little BlackBerry. She's my favorite. She is such a little sweetheart. Hi. Say hi, little BlackBerry. Mwah. She is such a little sweetheart. I love this cat so much. It's not focusing on her. Hi. Yes, I just created a PC. I turned a MacBook into a PC. Okay. Let's see. Connected. Everything's safe to power on. Let's connect the battery and... and we will test this. So let me just get this connected up with a test OS. Make sure it's turning on with no customer information on the screen. It did turn on before, so battery should be charged. Okay, we got life. Recently bought a used 1398 for myself for $225. It's not bad. I know common issues with this model and how can I avoid them. If it is the 2012 1398, U8900 is a common issue. It cannot be avoided. It just needs to be corrected, and it may have to be corrected multiple times throughout its life. If it's the 1398 that does not have a dedicated graphics. If it's only the one that has a CPU and that's it, that one suffers from dying CPU MOSFETs, which just wind up killing the CPU. Sometimes you can save it by changing the CPU MOSFETs. Most of the time it's just dead. Other than that, I don't think anything else is wrong with that model. That model's a pretty good model. Okay, so we're now loading our OS. So I'll load High Sierra on this. Weird sometimes where the new OS, the new BIOS is doing weird things with the Apple logo sometimes. Mario, I do have my own channel. It is out there. I have not put much work into it, but I will eventually put more work into it. Okay. Absolutely no reason to unlock their hard drive with their password. With these old machines, this is something good. With these old machines, we can log into our own OS. So I'm booting from an externally plugged-in hard drive and booting into our own OS. We don't need your password unless you suspect something wrong with your OS itself. There's no need for us to have your password. We can't get to your data. We don't touch your data at all. The new ones, unfortunately, we need your password to be able to log in and test anything. It's kind of a pain in the ass. I wish we could just external boot on everything. So now let's open up FaceTime and check our webcam. There we go. Hi. That's you guys up there. Webcam works. Backlight works. The other thing you check when you do the backlight, you check, make sure the backlight goes down and you don't have the stage lights coming up, and that it actually goes all the way out. So there we go. It's both Flexgates completed on this. Now if we take a look here too, I didn't screw it in yet, but you can see there's more space in here. Late 2013, and you have the GeForce. Now that if it has a GeForce, then that's the you do have an integrated graphics. The CPU does have an integrated graphics that you use most of the time when you're on desktop stuff, but then whenever you enable it, whenever a program asks to use the dedicated, you use the GeForce. So yes, you have one of the ones with the dual, so you don't have to worry about the CPU MOSFETs. But late 2013, I don't think there's any major issues with that at all. But yes, you can see that this is now the same length. If you go back to the beginning of the video and you saw how much shorter this was, now it's the same length as the image cable. So that's the other side of Flexgate. There's only two things that Flexgate can ever affect. It's either backlight or webcam. If you have any other image stuff going on, any lines or distortions or anything else like that, it's an LCD problem or the dustgate problem. It's not Flexgate. So, thanks for joining me. Good to see you all here. And yeah, keep a lookout for my channel. When Lewis leaves, I'll have probably a lot more time to work on my own content. Hopefully not that much time. I'm hoping building a new website and getting the word out through some of you guys and everything. I'm going to stay in Jersey. I'm not opening up a shop up here in New York. Yeah, you need capital to be able to start something like that. So yeah, anybody in Jersey, I'm in Rahway. I'll take mail-in just like Lewis does. I'm not going to be stocked for a while for parts and stuff like that. So stuff like board repairs or like this stuff, I can definitely handle. But like screens and keyboards and trackpads, I need to gear up on all that. I need to get stock shelves and get stock of all that. That's going to be an expense. I'm going to be working on all that. So yeah, that looks like it's going to be the path that I'm going to take. It doesn't seem like many companies around here that do this like to pay their employees more than minimum wage. So even after they see what I can do, they're offering like nothing compared to what Lewis has generously paid me over the years. So yeah, we're still here for a couple more months at least. You'll see me a couple more times on the channel. I'll come up with some more interesting things. I don't like doing videos on stuff that I've already done before. Sometimes I do, but this is something new. We've only done one Flexgate, the regular Flexgate, on the channel before, so I thought you all should see the camera Flexgate, which is just infinitely harder than the backlight Flexgate. No, thanks, guys. Be kind to the cats. I love the cats. Oh, I don't know if you guys saw the post. Like, was it yesterday? Lewis posted or 2 days ago, where Mr. Clinton with his hiss. Oh man, that was hilarious. So, hi. He has these cat ears that he had in his bag since Halloween. He's been messing around with them on Halloween, and he puts them on, and little Blackberry is just intently watching him. Like she's so confused. She has no idea what this new creature is. And then he goes and looks at Mr. Clinton, and Mr. Clinton was ready to rip his damn head off. Oh, there's Hi with his ears. Mr. Clinton was just ready to rip his head off. It was so hilarious. His tail got so puffy and so big, and I happened to snap that picture at just the right time. I got another one where when he jumped to the side and spread out his legs and he was hissing, he's all blurry in the picture, but the blurriness makes it even better. That was fun. We have some good fun with the cats around here. I love these cats. Now, I want to get one for home, but my significant other, she's allergic, so we need something like a Russian blue or a Siamese or something like that. And Russian blues that you're sure that they're a Russian blue, they're very expensive, so we haven't got a cat yet because of that. There's also some new science diet or something like that that's supposed to reduce the protein that makes you allergic. So, no, the hairless cat, actually, that does not help. Because it's not the hair that you're allergic to. You're allergic to a protein that's in their saliva. So a hairless cat still licks their self and everything and still has that protein. So you can still be allergic to a hairless cat. But Siamese and Russian blues, they have less of that protein. But the Russian blues are just so adorable. I love those cats. So it's probably going to be a Russian blue. I don't care too much for Siamese. Clinton dislikes imposters. Yes, he does. He called that cultural appropriation, and he was furious with it. I'm glad I grabbed that picture, though. That was excellent. In a community post, yeah. In a community post that Lewis put on this channel or the live channel. I'm not sure which one it was. I think it was this channel. I also have some up on my Instagram. Yeah, if you see I have a post all about it from yesterday on my Instagram. I'm A1707 on Instagram, so A2000 megahertz on Instagram, and you'll see I have 7 pictures that I posted on there. Unfortunately, I tried to post the one that Lewis posts too, but Instagram did something really wacky and like cut it sideways and flipped it and something, so I had to delete that one out of the post. But you get to see Blackberry with her wide eyes staring at Hi, wondering what the hell this guy is. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Hi looks like Belle Delphine. Oh no. Oh. Ah. That's terrible. Oh no. Ah. Can we get a link? I don't know if I can make a link. Let's see. Yes, I can get a link to my Instagram. No, I'm sorry about your brother's cat. I love Russian blues. They're so pretty. Okay, guys. Have a good day. Have a good weekend. I won't be on tomorrow. I'll come on next week, probably. The wire I used today, was it enameled? I think it is. It's just unbelievably small. The stuff is so small that I don't think the enamel really matters. I think the enamel just comes off so easily because it's .007. You can see it sticking out to the side there. It's smaller than a hair. It's like the size of a really fine cat hair that you would find on something. And it's really, really, really tiny. But yeah, it's because of how small it is, the enamel has no effect on heat. As soon as you touch it with a soldering iron, the enamel just comes right off. Have a good day, guys.